madness here this week as the Ravens kick off against the Buffalo Bills on Sunday. Of course, Luke and I'll be monitoring all things Orioles as they take it to Motown. Certainly a big part of this pennant race, this day-by-day thing going on with the Orioles. But on Sunday, all trains stop, and the Purple Birds see some familiar friends from Rex Ryan and Ed Reed, Dennis Thurman, down to Tyrod Taylor and Corey Graham. This guy covers the Buffalo Bills. I love his Twitter already because it features Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band in all of its glory. I must ask at some point where this picture was taken. He is Sal Marana of the Rochester Democrat and Chronicle, or as my pal Jimmy Jackson said, Rottenchester. That was just for the Amherst of Jody Gage back in the day. And we welcome him in talking all things Bills. I already like your Twitter, Sal, because it says, you say it like you see it regarding the Bills and anything else. No sugarcoating, because what's the point in that? If you don't like it, that's your prerogative. And you know what? I should just copy that and paste it down and just change Bills to Ravens or life. What's going on, man? How's life in Western New York here this week?
Life is good. It's been awfully warm all summer, which is not my favorite thing, but it's been a great summer. And the Bills have entertained us a bit. This team it's an interesting team. I just don't know. I don't know how good they really are. Last year, to be honest, Nestor, I've been a pessimist of the Bills for a long, long time, and I've had a lot of good reasons. 16 years with no playoffs.
I'm familiar with that. I covered the Orioles.
Yeah, I know. So you know. So, 28 years on the beat, and the last 16 have just been blah. So I was excited about last year's team, Rex Ryan's first Buffalo team. They let us down tremendously. So this year I went into, my usual, pessimism because I just didn't see this roster being any better than it was in 2015. So we'll see, starting Sunday down there in Baltimore, but it's going to be an interesting team, no doubt about it. Every Rex team seems to be interesting in one way or another, and this team, I think, will be. I just don't know if they're going to have enough to make the playoffs and end this ridiculous drought.
So full disclosure for you, Jimmy Schwartz is one of my best friends in the NFL from back in his Ravens days. He's a Baltimore guy. Mike Pettin's also a guy I'm very, very close with, and through my wife's battle with leukemia, did some events with us as well, and always dug him. Rex Ryan and I used to have a steak dinner for charity to kick off the season every year here. He did my radio show every week. So, I know all the players sort of in this thing that have been a part of this. What happened with the Schwartz, 4-3 to the 3-4 and Mario? How did it kind of get so discombobulated last year? And I'll say this, I don't know anything about Mario Williams, and I'm not the biggest defender of Rex. I see the good and the bad of Rex. I did a television show with his father 18 years ago, whom I love very much as well. And I would just say Rex isn't for everyone, but I'll say this, if you play defense for Rex, I've never met a player that didn't like playing for Rex. What the hell happened there last year?
Yeah, it was a disaster. You said it pretty well there. How could you not like playing defense for Rex Ryan? It's what he lives for. He certainly has an affinity for the guys on defense. They're his boys. People laugh about Rex that he doesn't care about offense. He always denies that, but I have to wonder because he hired Greg Roman and lets Greg Roman just do his thing on the offensive side. The defense.
Another guy with some purple roots, by the way, Greg Roman. There's a ton of purple going on up there, including under center.
It'll be a big reunion dinner down there when we get there Saturday night.
Bring some wings.
Rex really, the defense is his pride and joy. And last year he made a big mistake. The Bills, the year before he got here, 2014, they had played great on defense. They finished fourth, I think, in the league in yards against. Jim Schwartz's 4-3 was a simple, basic scheme, but really the players that they already had in place here fit it perfectly. Mario Williams and Jerry Hughes are ideally 4-3 rush defensive ends. So Rex came in last year, and those two guys really aren't comfortable being 3-4 outside linebacker rush ends. So he tried to meld the two schemes together to kind of appease those guys, and it just did not work. Mario Williams, for whatever reason, never bought into it. Even though Rex tried, to meet him halfway, he just never bought into it. He mailed the entire season in, and there was a no-doubter that they were going to cut him at the end of the year. He was a terrible fit. He had a bad attitude. Good riddance. Go to Miami and see what you can do down there. This season, Rex has made it very clear, to hell with it. We're scrapping the 4-3. I'm going to play my defense. I'm going to go out and find players in the free agent market and in the draft that are going to fit my scheme. And that's what they've done now for the last 4 or 5 months in this off-season workout program and preseason and camp. They have really honed in on Rex's defense. And I think, if they could stay healthy, which has already been a problem, they've lost their top 2 draft picks. Both guys were slated to be starters. They've already lost those guys. But if they can at least stay healthy from here on in, get Marcel Darius back after 4 weeks, they have a chance to be much, much better on defense than they were last year.
Sal, for these players that have been injured and what Rex wanted to do, and I know Rex, from coaching them up and the kill theory, keep it learnable and likable, and I'll just take my guy and plug Kelly Gregg in there, and we're going to play football. I mean, I lived through all of that, but then you have to have the horses, and I remember when Rex was pulling guys off the street. Ozzy's out getting cornerbacks on a really good football team where they just. You can't play with, less than steak in Rex's defense. And certainly one of the things that he likes to be is so complex that it really does take smart football players. And I know Ed Reed was a smart football player that is there. And I guess, one of the apostles there at this point, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Ed Reed was a key hire. I mean, they've said it right from day one. Rex called him. He pestered him into taking the job because Ed had expressed a little bit of interest, and Rex basically said, well, why would you want to go anywhere else? Come do it with me. He came in immediately, and he understands, like you said, he understands this defense, all the ins and outs of it, having played in it for several years, and he really has been, they've called him the Pied Piper over here, especially the DBs. All the DBs literally get in the line and follow Ed Reed wherever he goes because he's got so much wisdom to give these guys.
It was like the Super Bowl year, man. I tell you what, it was just like that, man. We saw it the last 3 years of his career where he really needed the win. Ray had already won, he hadn't won. And he became a leader of men. I'd like to say I'm shocked by it because I was around him the first 8 or 9 years. Where he went during the Billick era, where he wanted to hide around the corner with a hoodie on and never come out and talk to anybody, to becoming this really blossoming person. It is going to be interesting to see whether he can do it because a guy like Gilmore certainly has the talent, right?
Oh, absolutely. Gilmore and Darby are excellent cornerbacks. The guy he really has had an impact on is Aaron Williams, the safety. They played the same position, and Aaron Williams last year missed 13 games because of neck surgery, and Ed really got with him this offseason, and not only is teaching him the ins and outs of the defense, but perhaps just as importantly, he's teaching him how to play the game without exposing himself to injury. Because right now, Aaron Williams, he's one hit away. They all are, but with a neck condition, he's one hit away from a catastrophic injury. And Ed Reed battled some injuries like that during his career. And Aaron has said to him, he really has changed, my outlook. He's telling me, how you make plays without putting yourself in danger. You don't have to go diving into the pile every time. These little things that are hopefully going to prolong Aaron Williams' career. Those are the kind of things that Ed Reed has brought to the table. And I can guarantee you that these guys are going to deny it all week long about going back to Baltimore. But you know damn well Ed Reed is going to love to go into Baltimore and try to steal a victory from that old Ravens team. I know it. I'm positive. Rex feels the same way. Tyrod Taylor, all these guys who played there, they want to go in and beat the Ravens.
You betcha. He is Sal Mairana. He covers all things Bills. You can follow him out on Twitter, and thousands do, at Sal Mairana. That's Maiorana. And we will be sharing as well from the Democrat and Chronicle in Rochester, New York. We got another friend up there in Corey Graham, who is a Buffalo native. I know I had him on the show many times during the Super Bowl year, and I know when the opportunity came there, he's now been through some upheaval there with coaching and defenses and all of that. But he's sort of the hometown guy. How's he making out up there?
He's doing well. I mean, they brought him in last year, and I don't know that they expected him to be a starting safety. He was kind of brought in to be a backup, nickel-dime cornerback and be a special teams player, which had really been his forte in Baltimore and Chicago. It turned out that he played pretty well, and they realized they needed help at safety. They moved him back to safety, and he did okay. I won't say that I'm not going to say he had a great season last year, but it was really his first full year playing safety, and I think he made some pretty good adjustments. And now this year, like I said earlier, with going Rex's scheme full time. There's no melding of the two schemes. I think they've really been able, to focus in on what has to happen. They're starting to learn each other's positions. And I think Corey Graham, one of his best attributes, is a smart player. And that all plays into his game, understanding how the entire defense works. So I think we're going to have a better year out of Corey Graham, and it'll help him if Aaron Williams stays healthy to have him back by his side. Because last year, he had a couple guys who were just not very good. Bakari Rambo was one of them. Duke Williams, who's still here, had to play. Those guys just aren't as good as Aaron Williams. So if both of those safeties are back there and they stay healthy, they've got a nice tandem in the back end of the defense.
Yeah, I mean, Corey Graham got caught in the shuffle in Chicago and Lovie Smith's defense and couldn't get on the field. Was a special teams guy. And the minute he came in here, they thought of him as a special teams guy, and he just kept playing his way onto the field. Of course, made one of the biggest plays in Ravens history as well, in the playoffs, so and got a ring. So he'll be coming home. But, the real story, aside from Rex and all of this, is Tyrod Taylor, right? I mean, he is the most significant player now in the Bills organization, especially with Darius not out on the field, and they will go as he goes. Where are you on the Tyrod Taylor belief scale, knowing that, much like when I talked to my friends in Cleveland last week, you've seen a few quarterbacks up there since Jim Kelly, haven't you, Sal?
Yeah, we've seen plenty, and very, very, very few of them have done anything that's even been worth note. So, yeah, Tyrod Taylor came in, and I said this at the end of last year, he gave the Bills probably their most efficient quarterbacking since back to 2002 when Drew Bledsoe came over for his first year. Had a real nice first year and then kind of fell off the map. So it's been quite a while since the Bills have had a quarterback performance start to finish like the one Taylor gave them. Now, that being said, a couple things that were a problem. First of all, the way he plays the game is dangerous. He's a great athlete, and you never want to take that away from him, and Rex Ryan won't take it away from him, but still, he gets out of the pocket and he can get hit. And he got hurt last year. He missed 2 games. So that's always a worry with Tyrod. The other thing that held him back last year is he just didn't utilize the middle of the field. But most of their plays, or passing plays, were outside the numbers. They were one of the best deep ball teams in the NFL. He throws a beautiful deep ball. But they need to get more consistent in the intermediate game and over the middle, utilizing the backs, the tight end, Charles Clay. That was a real hole in Tyrod's game. So at the end of the year, I said, he gave us a great year. I mean, he played well, but there's a lot of room for improvement. Now, we fast forward to opening day this year. From all things that we've heard and seen out of Tyrod, he's had a great off-season program. He had a very good training camp. Greg Roman has been able to open up the playbook even more because Tyrod understands things better. He's now in year 2 in the system. I read somewhere a few months ago, I forget which site it was, one of the analytics sites, and they said that the Bills had the most simplified passing game in the NFL last year. And that was true. They were a very simple, half read, don't take any chances. If it's not there, take off and run. This year, I think it's going to be a little bit different. They're giving him more responsibility, and let's face it, he's got the athletic skill. I'm not worried about that. It's just going to be, will he be able to make the decisions and go through the reads and do it properly? If he does, Nestor, he could have a breakout season this year.
Well, you say game manager, but this fits right into, what Rex believes, right? Rex comes in there with a top 5 defense that Schwartz left behind and thought we're going to have a top 5 defense. Let's just not give the ball away and punt sometimes, and we'll put the defense on the field, and we'll pressure, and we'll take the ball away, and we'll score points because that's Ed Reed's style, right? We're going to score. The defense is going to outscore the offense, and that's one of the reasons, I guess, Rex figured he can live without a quote-unquote franchise $25 million quarterback without having to go 2-14 and draft third to get one, right? I would say this on Tyrod. We never knew what we had here. I've always liked Tyrod. He stopped by at the Super Bowl and visited as well. It's good to see him have some success. But, all the same reasons Joe Flacco was considered to be the one and only choice here will probably be played out there if they don't run the ball well. And certainly there's a lot about that offensive line and the running game that could take a lot of pressure off him. They didn't throw the ball much, and they don't really want to throw the ball much, right?
Yeah, that's true. They didn't. They were not. They were a run first team, and Rex had said that right at the start. They've got LaShawn McCoy, and then they had last year Carlos Williams, who was kind of their breakout 5th round draft pick, who no longer is on the team. And they were a ground and pound team. They did not want to put pressure on Tyrod Taylor. Don't forget, too, Sammy Watkins was hurt for a good chunk of the first half of the season, their biggest weapon in the passing game, so they didn't really trust anybody else. So, yeah, they ran the ball, threw it when they had to, and then sometimes when they were trying to throw it, Tyrod ended up running with it. He set a franchise record for rushing yards for a quarterback last year. This year, again, I think it's going to be a little bit of a different story. They don't want to bury LaShawn McCoy with 30 touches a game. He simply can't do it. And they've got Reggie Bush and a guy named Mike Gillislee as their backup. So McCoy is going to have to carry some of the load, but he can't carry it all. So they've got to put more on Tyrod's shoulders. They've got to use the passing game more. And like I said, Watkins being healthy this year, Charles Clay hopefully will be more a part of the offense at the tight end position. They've got Reggie Bush and McCoy to use out of the backfield. I think they're going to be a much better passing team in 2016.
He is Sal Marana of the Rochester Democrat and Chronicle. We're talking some football with the Bills coming to town. He's covered the Bills for many, many years, even the good Bills. It's funny you'd say he set a franchise record. I'm thinking, you mean it wasn't Ferguson or Kelly?
No, it wasn't those two guys. I think that Tyrod probably outrushed both of those guys combined for their careers last year.
And even Jack Kemp, throw him in there too.
Yeah, Jack Kemp was the master of the 1-yard touchdown plunge, though, so you got to give him that.
Sal, for this week, and I've said this to Ravens fans here, and I've talked to a bunch of people in Buffalo, and I don't mean to be insulting to the Bills or in any way, because I think they've had a much more tumultuous offseason. The Ravens had the tumultuous in-season last year with all the injuries. But if the Ravens lose this game to the Bills this week, 19-17 on some freaky-deaky play or some last-minute field goal or whatever, that happens in this crazy league, to lose a game by a point or two or three, it would not bode well for the Ravens season. This is one of those games that is going to be a defining game for the Ravens to say, if they lose this game, you start to think this isn't going to be a very good season. If you win the game, you beat a team that most of us think are going to win 6 or 7 or 8 games. Make a case that these Bills are going to win 10 or 11 games this year.
Yeah, it is. It's a tough case to make, and you're right. I think Baltimore, playing at home, coming off a 5-11 season, they should win the game. I have no doubt about that. But the Bills, I think, will have a chance. I think they're going to have a chance. They're going to come in. They're healthy, finally. They like I said, I've been talking about this over and over with you. They were never healthy almost anywhere last year. They had so many injuries. This year, with the exception of Darius not being there for the 4 games because of his suspension, everyone goes in with good health, and they're ready to roll. Offensively, I think this is a good offensive team. They've got 3 guys in Taylor, Sammy Watkins, and LaShawn McCoy. Those 3, the triplets, if you want to call them that, they're as good as any other team just about can throw 3 guys on the field. I mean, if you think about it, Taylor is probably the weak link, but Watkins and McCoy are 2 of the best players at their positions in the NFL. Their offensive line comes back intact. They can play the run, the ground and pound game. They're decent in pass protection, and because of Taylor's elusiveness, they don't have to be great because he can get out of there and make plays. So I think they're going to be a very good offensive team. On defense, if these guys do buy into Rex's system and they can overcome the loss of not having an edge rusher like Mario Williams, who even when he wasn't buying in, he's still a guy you have to worry about. And no Darius for 4 games. This defense should be better than it was last year. So yeah, they could win 9 or 10 games. The problem is the schedule. If they had played last year's schedule this year, I would say definitely they're going to win 10 games and probably get the wild card berth. They have a brutal schedule in 2016. They have 3 West Coast trips they have to make out to the Rams, out to the Seahawks, and out to the Raiders.
Yeah, we did that last year. It sucks, man.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's tough, man. They're playing the NFC West, so even Arizona is coming to Buffalo, but Arizona's a Super Bowl contender, so that's going to be a brutally hard game. They've got to play the AFC North. So they've got, of course, Baltimore, Cincinnati, and Pittsburgh. So they've got a really tough road, and I just don't see 10 wins in there for the Bills. So you could make the case if all things go well and they stay healthy, yeah, they could do it, but I really don't see it happening.
Sal, Richie Incognito, I mean, you've been covering this a long time. Look, I mean, I've been on this 21 years since the Ravens came off the boat. Hell, I go back to Art Schlichter being here as a Colt, right? So, trouble that comes with franchises. We lived through Ray Rice here. I've lived through Jamal Lewis in handcuffs, Ray Lewis in handcuffs, all the jurisprudence issues that have happened. When you take on the controversy, and Rex loves the bluster, he signs the kid that punched his former quarterback the next day. All of that bluster came, but Incognito was sort of a special case, and guys like you write about it and opine about it. Where are you on the Incognito arc? Because I've had a few people in Buffalo tell me he was their best football player last year.
Yeah, he had a great year. He came in, he knew he had a lot to prove after what had happened down in Miami. He'd been out of the league for basically 18 months. So a lot to prove, and he was. He was one of their best players. He solidified that offensive line, gave them everything they needed, and he was a model citizen. And I've had many talks with Richie, and he won't go on the record and say a whole lot about what happened in Miami. But the more you listen, the more you realize that he was painted out as the villain in that situation, but it wasn't quite all what everyone thought it was. And he, I think a lot of guys are on the side of he kind of got railroaded in that deal because he's Richie Incognito, because he had the reputation. So I'm not sure that he was all as guilty as everyone said he was, but coming to Buffalo, he had been here in 2009 for 3 games at the end of the year after the Rams had gotten rid of him because of his attitude, his penalty problems, and he really liked Buffalo, and we thought he was going to stay here and re-sign, and he ended up going to Miami, which, that was a good move. He ended up playing in the Pro Bowl for the Dolphins before the incident with Jonathan Martin, and it fell apart. So he came back to Buffalo, and he said right away, I liked it here the first time, I like it here now, and I want to stay here. And he proved it in the offseason by signing the free agent contract. I think he could have gotten more money had he really stayed out there longer and gone somewhere else. He stayed in Buffalo for a pretty reasonable price because he liked it here, and I think he'll have another good season this season.
Sal Marana covers all things Bills up in Rochester for the Democrat Chronicle, and you can follow him and his Bills journey out on Twitter, and that's MAIORANA. Hey, I appreciate the visit, man. It was good having you down. Bring me some wings. I'll hold you some crab cakes here, and we'll see the old purple guys and the current purple guys, and it's football season. This is what we all wait for, right? I don't think you can be a fan and not be giddy this week and waiting for all this, right?
Absolutely. It is football season, but I'll tell you what, I'm a big baseball guy, too. So
I'm looking on the thing here, and I'm seeing all this Cubs thing. What's with your Cubs thing? I was out in Chicago 2 weeks ago for the Pearl Jam shows, and, I've never seen a place that they're just printing their World Series tickets there, and I will say to you what I say to every Cubs fan, everybody I talk baseball with. First off, I'm from Baltimore, dude. You're welcome for Jake Arrieta. So let's start with that. And secondly, you better win game 1. You know what I mean? Like that's really what October comes down to. If you lose game 1, all of that 108 or 9 or 10, however many games they're going to win, it won't mean anything if Arrieta loses game 1.
I absolutely agree. I'm a big Yankees fan. You won't like that. So it's the Yankees in the American League.
I knew there was something I didn't like about you, and it wasn't the Springsteen picture on the profile.
Hey, the Yankees helped out your Orioles this week. They beat Toronto twice, so I wouldn't get too down on them. Big Yankee guy, but also a big Cub guy. And the thing with the Cubs, I was actually out in Chicago last week.
I see your pictures out there with your family.
Yeah,
beautiful thing.
Went to the Cubs game with against the Pirates twice. Saw 2 wins. The thing with the Cubs is, I'm a little bit concerned about October. They're blowing through the regular season. They're the best team in baseball, but you're absolutely right. Everything changes in October, and there are some certain areas in their game that I worry about, particularly, believe it or not, on offense. They go through games where they'll have like 1 big inning and then do nothing for 8 innings. Well, that's not going to happen in the postseason. You aren't going to have that big inning most times in the postseason game because you're playing the best teams with the best pitchers. So I'm not printing World Series tickets yet, believe me. I haven't covered the Bills for this long. I'm a pessimist by nature. So I'm a little bit leery, but there's no doubt it's been a great, fun year to cover to follow the Cubs.
You know what's amazing here? It's been a huge story. I'm the guy who had my press credentials taken away 10 years ago by the king of the kingdom, who's really wrecked the city, over 25 years. And it's on display last week when we're playing the biggest games of sort of this generation. We had the ALCS, and we made the playoffs, but, all of that's supposed to lead to some energy, and they're playing the Toronto Blue Jays last week, and it's friends and family all week long. Yankees fans coming in shouting down the Orioles fans. There's a real problem here with fan support of the Orioles. And you're from
Yeah, I don't
Rochester,
understand that.
and you're Rochester. You know what Naomi Silver went through up there. Angelos has torched virtually every bridge, and one of the bridges is people like me and many, many business owners who just don't buy tickets and can't give them away and don't buy skyboxes anymore. And the Washington fan base is all now, nationaled up, and Angelos has cashed in all the money. But it is kind of embarrassing to be in a pennant race and have nobody going to the games.
Yeah, I'm surprised. Yes, it's funny. The same thing's happening in Cleveland.
Sure.
That's one of the best teams in the league, and they're still not drawing. They used to draw great at the Jake, or now whatever it's called. And they're not drawing.
And it's not like they're waiting for Brown season.
Yeah, right, exactly. Maybe they're hungover because of the Cavs season. But I'll tell you what, that's the great thing about Chicago and Wrigley Field. It's just electric in there every night. It's sold out. It's just the ballpark. The feel in the ballpark is just like no other. It reminds me of old Yankee Stadium, because new Yankee Stadium, believe me,
it's a mall.
It's not like that at all.
Yeah.
It is not like that at all. But old Yankee Stadium is kind of the closest thing I can think of, that and Fenway, to Wrigley as far as the atmosphere in the ballpark and the engagement of the fans. The fans, they're not there to go screw around and go on the concourse, and they're there to watch the game. I love it. It's a great place to watch a game.
Well, there is no concourse at Wrigley Field. We found that out, though, when they put 15 more thousand people down on the field for Pearl Jam. And, drinking was a bad idea because then you had to pee. And, it didn't work out so great at Wrigley. Great having you on, Sal. I appreciate the visit, man. We'll see you in here on Sunday, and let's get this season started. Have some fun. Give Rex our best.
All right, Nestor, thanks for having me.
You got it. Sal Marana, he says it like he sees it regarding the Bills. And you can follow him out at Twitter as well as at the Democrat and Chronicle.com. You can find me in the Buy a Toyota Audio Vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn Radio app. We come in crystal clear. And the morning newspaper, 7 a.m. It hits your email inbox with headlines, box scores, standings, all the stuff you need to get your day started, as well as with a cup of Royal Farms coffee. Pretty good stuff there. Our morning newspaper brought to you by our friends at Planet Fitness at PlanetFitness.com. Last but never least, breaking news happens first on the WNST Tech Service. That is brought to you by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. Dennis Colossus will be here on Thursday, driving you home and getting you all perked up for football every Thursday, as well as some pennant race baseball going on in Detroit this weekend. Nasty at WNST.net finds me. Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook Live streaming whenever the hell we want, and YouTube on our WNSTV channel. Appreciate all the love, certainly for my wife and getting back from Germany, but we're ready for some football on Sunday. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Taos in Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.